excited for today. Sarah and I have talked about this for a little over a month or maybe more, about being able to bring this information to you guys. Sarah's been a great friend over the last, well, we'll say too many years. And we knew ourselves or each other pre-Microsoft, pre-dates of Sarah being a coach. But she's really transformed herself and now helps people transform their careers. So I'm very excited to have Sarah join us to really help us through being able to kind of find that limitless leadership. And take it away, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that very kind introduction, Glenn. And I'm so grateful that I get to be with you all for the next 55 minutes. We're actually going to have fun today. So can everyone grab a piece of paper, grab a pen? We're going to make this a super interactive workshop. If anyone wants to hop on video, I'd love to see you on video, but if not, that's okay too. Let's make this interactive. Let's make this open. Let's make this a safe space to just get curious and share and learn from each other. And I'm just going to start with, and I told Jackie and Glenn that I'm new to Teams, so I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to share right now. I've got a couple slides that I want to share with you all. Jackie, are my slides showing?
They are, yes.
We got them.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay. So I have been in a place where I was laid off. It was 2001, and I'm going to talk about that next. But first, what I'm going to say is I've been in the tech industry for about 28 years. And then in 2020, I also added a coaching practice to my company. And I have a podcast and I have a book. And at the end, I'm going to give you a copy of my book. You can see it right behind me. It's called Rock Your Brain, Rock Your Life. And I think of myself as like one of those high achievers, ambitious leaders, very driven by success, but pretty much lived my whole career up until 2020, like on the edge of burnout, on the edge of overwhelm, just not really enjoying my life and really enjoying my world of work. So I invented this framework, this cognitive framework that I'm going to use with you today and share with you today about how to really help you lead yourself through this chapter of uncertainty. And I understand like how uncertain things feel for everyone right now, but especially for what you're going through yourself. So I live in San Francisco. I have an amazing partner, Kurt. I've got a 30-pound dog named Bob Marley because I used to live in Jamaica. And I'm just grateful to be here with you all. So as Glenn mentioned, this is all going to be about us learning how to lead ourselves and be intentional, like through this chapter of finding work, but just in life in general. This framework will really help you shift what you believe about yourself, how you feel about yourself, and it'll help you create more calm and confidence in your life. So raise your hand if you're a yes. You want to feel calm and start rising above the overload of applications, networking, the news, tariffs, all the things.
We've got some yeses in the chat.
Yes, awesome. Love it. All right. And so here's what I really want you to feel into today is you're not on this planet to survive any of this chaos that's going on right now and any of the uncertainty that you're going through right now. I really want to invite you to think about that you're here to lead yourself through all of what's going on. And I'm going to give you a really simple tool so this starts feeling really believable that I know how to lead myself. I know how to rise above all of this chaos and feel a sense of calm and confidence and peace today. So you're going to build your leadership presence. You're going to understand about prioritization and boundary setting. I've used an example of what your CEO does every day. And I'm going to give you this tool to coach yourself daily through the pressure, the uncertainty, and everything that's coming up through this chapter of your life. So it was 2001. I worked for a tech startup. I came into the office on a Friday morning and I got laid off. It was 10 a.m. My boss sat me down, and it was 2001 when the NASDAQ imploded, and there were thousands and thousands of people looking for work. And it was a very similar circumstance to what we're going through right now. And I was petrified. I was scared. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank. And I felt so much fear about the fact of like, oh my God, there's so many people looking for work right now. Like no one's going to hire me. I felt a lot of uncertainty and a lot of insomnia. It was a really challenging time in my life. And I wish that I had what I'm going to share with you today back then. Because yes, I was able to like start a consulting business and build a company, but it was really challenging. And so I didn't have what I'm going to share with you today. And so that's why when Glenn asked if I'd come and chat with you all, I was like, yes, if I had today, back then in 2001, when I got laid off during massive layoffs, it would have been a very different next decade of my life. I wouldn't have struggled on the fringes of burnout and overwhelm and health problems and insomnia and just not feeling great about my life. So yeah. So what I did in 2020 was go deep on the brain because I had my own kind of another chapter of like personal crisis in 2019 when my best friend moved away. And what I've come to realize through a lot of research and a lot of study is your brain, which is 3 pounds, is your most powerful asset. And you're going to learn how to lead yourself intentionally, and feel in control professionally and personally through this cognitive framework that I'm going to teach you today. So in 2019, my best friend and her husband moved away with their kids. I would see them every week. And I've been in therapy for literally decades. And I felt like my life fell apart. I felt like the floor underneath me fell apart. It was hard to get out of bed. I felt so lost. I felt so sad. I had no resilience, and I hired my coach, and I learned these tools that I'm going to share with you today. So that's a little bit about me. So we're not going to go into all these details. I know you're feeling overwhelmed. I've been there. I know all of the uncertainty that you're feeling right now. I've been there. And when I was getting ready for this session with you all, I just thought about like all the decisions I'm making right now. And I was like, oh my God, decision fatigue, especially for you all with where you are right now, is real. And I found a McKinsey study that it's like, we are making about 300 decisions an hour. So you think about the world circumstance, you think about and the news, and you think about where you are, and you think about all the emails and applications and everything. And so I understand that it's just feeling tough. I'm like, how do I lead myself through this chapter? And so trust me, I got you. So I felt a lot of overwhelm in 2001. And what I want to promise you today is what happens when we're in overwhelm is we're in reactive mode. And so what we're going to do today is help ourselves get out of overwhelm and get into feeling more calm and peace and confidence and lead ourselves intentionally through this chapter. So here's our thesis for today. It's not how do I survive all of this? It's what kind of leader do I choose to be for myself through this chapter? All right, any questions so far?
There are none currently in the chat, but I'll wait for folks to add some.
Perfect. Okay, great. And feel free to raise your hand as well and stop me if you've got questions. I'm an open book. I will share, any details you want to know about how I navigated 2001. I will share any details about how I navigated 2019 and eventually getting out of bed and learning everything that I'm going to share with you today. So one of my favorite teachers is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Anyone heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? Raise your hand. No? Or drop it in the chat. What I love about Joe is he helped me understand that we can change our identity. So my entire life up until 2020, I thought I'm not smart enough, I'm not creative enough, I'm not successful enough. And these are all identities that we have in our brain, and we all have them. But here's the thing. When you change your brain and the way that you think, and you're going to understand how this relates in a minute, you actually change your reality. So, one of the examples that I love to share is when I started working with my coach, Brooke Castillo, and, I started really shifting out of overwhelm and burnout and just kind of, surviving and really not thriving in my life professionally or personally, is I got so excited about what I was learning that I wanted to be able to share it with all of my fellow peers in tech. And so I thought, well, the easiest way for me to do that is to either A, start a podcast, or B, write a book. But if you're not smart enough, or you're not creative enough, or you don't have enough ideas, right, I wasn't going to do that. So I had to change the way that my brain worked. And through this framework that I'm going to share with you today, you're going to learn how to do the same. So now we're going to roll up our sleeves and grab our pen and paper. And the reason why I love pen and paper is I'm certified in cognitive tools. And when you use a pen and paper, you start really understanding and seeing and feeling what's going on in your brain. So here's the brain nerd right now. We have about 60,000 thoughts that go through our brain every single day. Did anyone know that? If you did, drop a yes in the chat. Then my next question for you is, what % of these thoughts that are going through your brain are negative? Take a guess. Anyone have any thoughts around what % are negative?
We've got a 90% in the chat right now. We have an 80%.
Yes, exactly. So think about that. Our brain that was created in the days of the saber-toothed tiger days, when, we had to always be aware of, like, how are we going to survive? Are we going to get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, right? This is our primitive brain. We're running around with all these negative thoughts in our brain because our brain is wired this way. But we're not taught in school, college, we weren't taught that we actually can manage these thoughts in our brain. We actually can get conscious about what we're thinking and not just listen to this nonstop negative dialogue that's going on in our brain. So what I want you to do right now, this is the first cognitive tool that I'm teaching you, and I call it the thought download. So for the next 5 minutes, you're going to write down all the thoughts that are going on in your brain right now about your current circumstance. Don't edit or judge them. Just notice them with love and compassion and curiosity. Like, even I love, like, thinking about my best friend or my partner, Kurt, and about him looking at my thought download and being like, wow, you really don't think that you're, like, creative enough? Like, that's just fascinating that you think that way. So let's just start writing them down on a piece of paper. Anyone got any questions about exercise number 1? All right.
I just encourage you all to be really honest about this.
Love that, Glenn. Thank you for that. Yes. No, yeah, don't judge, just write. And every thought is just a sentence in your mind. That's also what I want you to think about as you're writing. It's just a sentence. We get to choose what each of these sentences mean. So just write. Yep. Put my timer on. And as you're writing, I'll just share a couple things. Like, often when I write, like, I just feel this, like, cathartic feeling of just taking all of this stuff that feels really heavy in my body and in my mind and just getting it onto a piece of paper, just getting some distance from it. And if your brain comes to a place of, like, I have nothing else to write, just be loving and curious with it, and just keep writing. Just keep going. Just keep letting all the words flow. out of your body, out of your soul, out of your mind, and just onto this piece of paper. Just allow yourself this gift of connecting with yourself, connecting with your heart, connecting with your soul, connecting with what's going on inside of you right now. Just honor yourself in this capacity. We've got 2 more minutes. And while you're doing that, I'll just share a little bit about, if I did my thought download back in 2001, my thoughts were, this search is hopeless. No one's going to hire me. There's so many people looking for work right now. I'm not smart enough. I'm not enough of an expert. This all feels really hopeless, and why bother trying?
That's very similar to some of the things we have in the chat. We have realization that I have a lot of worries. I'm feeling really determined. We have a no change in thought or experience, just putting it on paper. We have another that says triggered some sort of anxiety. I had a physical response to it. The other one that's coming through here is much more positive than I expected. There were only a couple worried sentences, then a shift to feeling hopeful about new possibilities. And then our last one says, I actually feel a little less concerned about my thoughts because I can see them and answer them out loud.
Yes. Oh, I just got goosebumps. Thank you so much for sharing that. Exactly. What you're doing is you're creating a little bit of distance. This is really important. I really want you to hear this right now. A thought is just a sentence in our brain. It is not who we are. Who we are these divine, creative, powerful, incredible humans. We are not all the thoughts in our brain. I'm sure most of you know that the thoughts in our brain, or the sentences in our brain, we've actually learned from our parents, from society, even from something someone might have just said, right? So they're all have been optionally put into our brain, most of them between the ages of 0 to 7. And so understanding that we are not our thoughts and they're just sentences in our brain that we learn from our parents and society is how I want you to think about them, and to understand that they are all optional. If they're not serving you, they're optional. So the next thing I want you to do is you're going to take that same piece of paper, another piece of paper, and you're going to write on like the left-hand side, you're going to write just what I have here on the left: fact, thought, feeling, actions, and result. So I want you to write that down on your piece of paper, and we're going to go through this exercise, and then you're going to do this yourself. So what I learned when I hired Brooke in Q4 of 2019 and started working with her is that my thoughts always ended up as a part of my reality. So these are 5 things that exist in the universe right now, right? Facts, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. So here are the definitions of each of those 5 things that you've just written down on the piece of paper. And if I move too quickly, you can just use it right here. So a fact is one sentence that will stand up in a court of law before a judge. So it's neutral. So, a job wreck is neutral. A white car is neutral. A red apple is neutral, right? They're all neutral. My iPhone is neutral. And a thought is, you just did a thought download. So you know what a thought is. It's all these sentences in our brain, like no matter what I do to find a job, it's never good enough, right? Or like whatever that thought was. Now, when we think a thought, like, what I used to think was no matter what I do to find a job, it's never good enough. The feeling in my body was frustrated. Now, everything we do in life, like all of the things that we do, come from how we feel. So what are all the things that we do or don't do when we feel frustrated? So when I felt frustrated, I would complain about work. I would stew in negative thought loops, scroll on social media instead of looking for work. I would clean my apartment all the time. And so the result that I was creating for me, so the result is always how am I creating my life? Kind of back to where we started. We want to lead ourselves and create the result or the reality for ourselves that serves us through this chapter of our life. So, in this example, the thought, no matter what I do to find a job, it's never good enough, actually created the result for me of burnout. I wasn't loving my life. I wasn't showing up great in interviews. I wasn't moving myself towards the goal of a new career. So can you drop in the comment right now or raise your hand how you can see that your thought or this thought for me was creating a really crappy result for myself, or a way of me not leading myself through the circumstance of looking for work? Can anyone see this thought reality correlation now? Or have any questions, actually? Does anyone have any questions? And feel free to, open up your audio and ask me questions too. I'm going to give
In
you
order to help guide and have some order here, we ask folks to use the raised hand feature in Teams, but we're
okay.
also just giving them some time to write in the chat.
Okay.
We have a response here that
Great.
says unproductive and having depressive tendency in response to your question.
Okay. So your thought is you feel unproductive?
That is my understanding to that response. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So here's the example. Here's like another example of the framework with a limiting thought. So the fact line is work. Work is neutral. Find it, this is neutral. And the thought, the thought I used to have is there's so many people looking for work, no one's going to hire me. And then I would feel sad and hopeless. And what are all the things that I would do and not do? I mean, I was like nonstop worrying and ruminating all the time. I had insomnia. I wouldn't work out because I felt so sad and hopeless. I withdrew from people in my life. I would apply for jobs, but I was so tired and my energy was so hopeless that it showed up in interviews. And I ended up not showing up for myself as a leader in my interviews. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't being a leader at home. And so this is like the limiting thought, how my thought created the result for myself of not leading myself. So can you take one of the negative thoughts, just maybe circle right now from your thought download, the negative thought that feels most on repeat right now? Let's just take a minute and write down or circle the one that's most on repeat. For me, it was like, too many people looking for work, no one's going to hire me. Like too much competition. I was living in a lot of scarcity. So the question that I want you to ask yourself as you circle that thought on your thought download sheet is this just a simple way to be curious. Is this thought serving me as a leader? Is this thought serving me in terms of my wish for myself to lead myself limitlessly through everything that's going on, to almost like rise above it all and to decide what to believe about me? And then the next question I want you to ask yourself is, are you willing to see things differently? If every thought in your brain is truly a sentence and we get to decide what to believe, are you willing to see things differently in a way that serves you in terms of leading yourself through this chapter of your life? So I've taken the same framework and I've come up with an intentional thought that I started practicing. And as I mentioned, I didn't have this back then, but this is what I would do if I had this framework back then. Is I started, it's practicing the thought of it's possible I can find employment again. I'm open to believing I can find employment again, right? It's a thought I call them bridging thoughts. it makes you feel a little bit more open, like a sigh, right? And then when you feel a little bit more open, you're going to challenge your brain to think creatively around, maybe you hop onto one of these sites where you can get part-time work. There's so many of them now, right? You turn off notifications and just focus on, tapping into your network and, how to think creatively about taking your skills and applying them in a new industry. And most importantly, for each and every one of you, you remind yourself you're a high performer with unique value. Every single one of you has something to offer that no one else has. So how can I share that story a little bit more creatively? How can I package my skills in a little bit more of a unique way? And most importantly, asking for help. And so the result is, if it's possible I can find employment again, if you look at all these actions, you're getting closer to a new role, right? Because you're showing up in a way that's like, I'm feeling more calm, I'm feeling more confident, I'm asking for help. So here's another example of how your thinking will actually create your reality. Any questions?
I'll let folks add some in the chat, or if they want to raise their hands, they can do that too.
Great.
Something that, Sarah, I love that you're bringing this in, because a common question that we've received several times throughout this, throughout Mentorship Live, is how folks can disconnect their self-worth from their market worth, from like that struggling feeling of capitalism throughout there. I'm wondering, with this framework that you're applying, it's very reminiscent of therapy. I'm with you. I've done I'm in it too. Something that I've been suggested before is to kind of disconnect those thoughts and be like, oh, that's just someone else's thinking, right? That's society there. And so one therapist suggested just giving it a name, right? And so I used someone I didn't like from high school named Greg. And I was like, oh, that's not my thinking. That's just Greg.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've suggested to others or applied for yourself?
I have goosebumps right now and tears in my eyes. I'm going to share. This is such a great question. I'm going to share. That's okay. It's important that you, each and every one of you, feel into what feels right to you. Jackie, I love what you just. Is it Jackie or Jacqueline?
This is Allie. I know that you can't see people.
Allie, I can't see. Allie.
You are all good.
Allie, I love what you just shared. And I'm going to share with each and every one of you. You've got Allie's option. I'm going to share something that I do with myself and with my clients. So my negative thoughts in my brain are my dad. My dad was really, really tough on me. And here's what I do. When I notice these thoughts of like, you don't know the right thing to say, when you're coaching, or any of these thoughts, here's what I do. I'm like, oh, there's my dad again. All right, Dad, listen, I'm going to give you some cookies and some milk. I'm going to seat you over on the couch over there. And I want you to entertain yourself. There's more snacks in the fridge. I'm going to put my headphones on right now. And I'm going to just get busy believing what I know to be true. That it's possible I can creatively tap into my network today, and that I will be gainfully employed in the next couple months, right? I turn off my dad. I give him cookies and milk. Or maybe it was your mom, or where did you start all that negative thinking? Or maybe it's not even clear where you got it all, but you're like, listen, negative thoughts, like you're seated on the couch over there. You're not in my brain. You're not who I am. You're things that I've picked up over the years that are not me. So that's what I do.
That's great. I love that suggestion. We have a hand up here from Rashida. Rashida, it's great to see you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this, Sarah. I just have a quick comment about one of my thoughts, and I realize it's an unconscious thought. Yes. That marinating in my anxiety about my job search will somehow propel me forward. So I don't actually think that to myself, but I realize that it's something that I'm feeling because I have stopped doing all of the things that, regardless of, whether or not I have work or have the job that I want, there's still things that are good for me. And, you know, in my head, it's I will be able to breathe. And when I'm able to breathe, that's when I'll be able to work out. That's when I'll be able to socialize. That's when I'll be able to feel comfortable enough to do all of the things that I should be doing anyway. That can only make, you know, whatever happens with the job search, can only make me a better person. And you know, just make my feelings about my job search that much, you know, easier. So it's kind of a catch-22 where, you know, I don't know it, but I'm thinking that I need to stay in the anxiety and the worry, because that's somehow going to make it happen faster. It's a little bit like reverse magical thinking. So just a thought there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You know what? It's interesting as we're all ambitious leaders, we're all high performers, is we actually believe that like stress and worry and anxiety and pushing is actually what we need to do to be who we are in the world of tech. And what I'm going to ask you is, when you just close your eyes right now and just drop into your body, and I want every single one of you to do this. When you feel that feeling of, you just shared worry or anxiety or fear, like feel that in your body right now. So where, like, does worry feel light and creative, or does worry feel heavy and like, and maybe even uncreative? Like when you're in worry, are you creative or uncreative? Like feel that in your body. Worry, is it heavy or light?
It's definitely a creative block for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just look at that with love and compassion and curiosity. You know, I'll share a little bit about me. Like with my dad, and everything I did was wrong. I lived in so much worry, and worry became a feeling that I was addicted to. It was an internal way of being that I knew no other way to be other than worry. So imagine when I got laid off and, I was like super worried. But exactly, the feelings will always drive your actions, right? In the framework, just like you just look at that piece of paper right now. And so are you, I have a question for you. Are you open to believing that you don't have to worry to move your job forward, to move this chapter of your life forward, getting a job? Or is it possible?
Sarah, we have a great question in the chat here from Mallory, who says, I hear my last manager asking me, Mel, why on earth are you still here? Do you have any suggestions on how to tackle this?
Yeah, I'm writing this down. Why on earth are you still here? Okay.
I can add on top of that when I first started work, I actually had someone say, have you ever managed anything? And it was so condescending, but it stuck with me for a long time. So it's kind of that same vein.
Yeah. So here is what I want to share very briefly with each and every one of you. Every single thought in your brain, all 60,000 of them, are, as we've all just started unpacking, thoughts that you've learned from your parents, from society, from something somebody said, that go into our subconscious. So that person who said, why on earth are you still here? That was a thought that that person had in their brain that came from whatever was going on in their life, right? What I want to encourage each and every one of you to truly be open to believing, or maybe even just deciding to flipping believe right now, is the thoughts that come out of each of our mouths have to do with us. Why on earth are you still here has everything to do with that person. That person is projecting their own stuff on you. Understanding this is a fact. thoughts out of your mouth have to do with you. So why on earth are you still here had everything to do with what was going on with that person. Maybe they were having, marital problems. Maybe their mom said to them every single day, why on earth are you still here, right? They had a lot of stuff going on in their lives, which is why they were showing up at work and saying a sentence like that to you. So what I want you to be open to seeing is that has nothing to do with you. Nothing. It has everything to do with this person not feeling good about themselves and projecting their stuff that they learned onto you to make themselves feel better. So can you give yourself some love and compassion right now for believing that sentence to be about you? Can you give yourself some love and compassion and be open to believing that it has nothing to do with you?
Mel is adding some additional context, Sarah, saying one, that the manager, his wife had passed a couple months before.
Yeah.
And that Mal hadn't thought of it like that before in what you're reframing it as.
Yes. Whenever someone's going through life and they're being negative towards you, they're putting you down, they're saying any of these sentences, I just want you to remember that it has nothing to do with you. It's about what they're going through. And the more you can distance yourself and what you believe about you to be true from what people say about you, the more powerful you're going to feel as a leader. Any other comments or questions in the chat?
One thing that Glenn added that I thought was great is always asking, who is this from that message? Like, who's actually coming through on there, which is great.
Yeah.
But no current questions.
Okay, great. All right, exercise 2. You're gonna coach yourself for 10 minutes. So you're gonna grab that piece of paper and a pen, and you're going to coach yourself using the frameworks. I'll go back to the prior slide. So remember, I had you circle that one thought that was that negative thought that you had. I want you to now pick a thought that feels believable and write that down. So circle that negative thought, like, I'm not sure I'm ever going to get another job. And then come up with a thought that feels believable. So, like, for example, it's possible I can creatively tap into my network today and that I will find a job. And then what I want you to do is I want you to coach yourself. So take that negative thought, that limiting thought, the fact line is work. Next to the word thought, write out your limiting thought that you circled. Write out how you feel. And then think about all the things that you do and don't do. And then think about the result or the reality that it's creating for you as a leader. The limiting thought will always show up in you not being a leader, leading yourself through this chapter of your life. So let's take a couple minutes and do this. Anyone have any questions while we're doing this exercise? I'm going to also answer that question too while you're doing this. How can I disconnect my self-worth from my worth around my job? The answer is really simple. It's deciding what you believe about you and who you are as a person. So, for example, what I believe about me is that I'm a loving, kind, curious woman who wakes up every day to learn, to grow, to be of service. And create a life that I love. That's what I believe about me. So to answer that question, it's doing that thought download. It's using the framework about what I believe about me, who I am, that has nothing to do with work. I'm an amazing mom. I'm, helping out at the, local charity every week, and I love being able to be of service to these humans. I'm I'm so proud of how I show up as a partner. I'm just proud of how I show up as a mom with my kids. I'm grateful I was able to go to the gym and show up for myself today.
A lot of the questions that we receive, Sarah,
Yeah.
fall along the lines of, and these frameworks are great for this, but I think you might have some great insights as well, but often fall along the lines of, how do I stay hopeful or not take it personally when I message a recruiter on LinkedIn and they don't respond, or I go through 3 rounds of interviews and they never respond back to me? What would you say, in addition to these frameworks, what would you respond to folks with about how do you get back up from
Yeah. Okay. So it goes back to what I said earlier. How do you stay hopeful as you go through 3 rounds of interviews and no one responds? You have to drop back into you and feel into that you are a high performer with unique value, and you know that there is something out there for you, and you are not going to let that one circumstance slow you down. So you have to believe in abundance. You have to believe that your perfect new role or new business or new side hustle is out there waiting for you. You have to not make people not responding on LinkedIn, people not responding on a round of 3 rounds of interviews mean anything about you. You've got to come back to what you know to be true about you. Because remember, if someone doesn't respond to you on LinkedIn, is it about you? No, it's about them and whatever they're going through. If you go through 3 rounds of interviews and you don't hear back from them, I mean, yes, it would be nice if they responded, but you have no control there. Where do you have the power to lead yourself? You have the power to lead yourself with oh, well, doesn't look like that's going to be the right fit. And I've done everything I can around that one company. I'm going to go tackle something else. So, off the top of my head right now, I mean, I remember Colonel Sanders, who started KFC, he got turned down by 100 banks before he got funded for KFC. So what I want you to all visualize right now is you're at the beach, right? And right now you're looking for work on the, north side of the beach near the water, and nothing's coming to fruition. Now, your job or your next piece of employment is actually on the south side of the beach, closest to the rocks. So you have to feel in your body and know your unique value and be like, you know what? I know something's out there for me, and I'm going to keep looking, and I'm not going to make people not calling me back, people not responding mean anything about me, because it's their thoughts. It's what's going on in their world, and I have no control over their thoughts, right? And what they're going through and what they decide to do.
And what I'm hearing you say, Sarah, is this isn't toxic positivity, but rather, and it's not to push down any sense of defeat or exhaustion in this, but rather to acknowledge them, because pushing that down would not serve you in that moment.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing you say that after that happens, after you are processing that and having those feelings, that there is action there. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So when you What's the feeling that comes up of how do I stay hopeful as I go through 3 rounds of interviews? What's the feeling? Are you feeling
Giving
like,
folks a second to type it in the chat for you. Okay, I'm seeing empowered.
empowered?
Yep, I see empowered.
But when you, okay, so when you are going through 3 rounds of interviews and the company doesn't call you back, do you feel hopeless? Do you feel sad? Do you feel frustrated? What's the feeling?
Okay, folks are saying hopeless,
Okay.
frustrated.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're all going to do a group exercise now. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to drop into your body, feel into your heart. That hopeless, frustrated, scared, fear. I want you to feel where that energy is in your body. Where is hopeless in your body? Where's fear? I want you to feel that part of you. There's a part of you that's feeling hopeless, scared, vulnerable. Like for me, when I feel hopeless, it's right here in my heart. So this is a part of you. And this is often a young part of us. I call her little Sarah, who's feeling hopeless. Okay. Now, there's the more empowered, confident person that you know you are. Like, think about what your partner says, your best friend says about you, right? There's a part of you that's that powerful, resourced, trusting, knowing part of you as well. So I want you to like feel that part of you that feels hopeless. And it's probably your little person inside of you, and say, hey, love, what do you need from me right now? So ask that part of you that feels fear, scared, wherever it is in your body. It's just a part of you. It's not all of you. Hey, love, what do you need from me right now? And often the answer is like, so just listen to that answer. You know, if you're believing the divine or the universe or higher power or God or whatever that is, like maybe tap into that higher power that you have, right? But feel when you felt your most confident and you're connected to the divine, ask that part of you that feels hopeless, what do you need from me right now? And listen. Often when I ask that part of me that feels hopeless, my higher way of self says, I need you to believe in me. I need you to trust that we're not going to give up, that we're going to stay determined, and we're going to figure this out, and that we can do hard things.
I love that. That's great. I know that you have about 5 minutes left, and I want to ensure you have time to wrap up and plug all of your amazing things on your website.
Yeah, totally. So, and you'll have access to these slides. So, and I'm going to give you some homework. So you'll have access to these tools, and we're going to skip all of these, and we're going to skip this. So also too, just so that you all know, Glenn and I talked about this is going to be a part 1, and then we're going to do a part 2 next Friday. So I'm going to give you some homework, and we're going to go through the rest of the slides next Friday. Okay. All right. So does anyone want to share in the chat one powerful identity shift you've decided to make today, or one thing you learned today that feels like it's going to help you in this chapter of your life? And I'll take a minute just to drop it in the chat, or if anyone wants to share, please do. This is all about, see how your thinking creates your reality. So this is about deciding to lead yourself with intention, clarity, and trust that you can coach yourself using the framework, the thought download, and navigate this chapter to your next career move, whatever that is.
And that's exactly what folks are saying. We've got, I'm going to stop waiting and be social now. We have, I'm going to test my thoughts and assumptions. Someone says, I'm going to tell, I think it's, I'm going to tell the negative thoughts to stuff themselves with cookies. And then lastly, changing my negative questions into positive reinforcement.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And also, too, use that exercise that we did of just holding the space for that feeling. This is just called parts work. So it's holding the space for the part of you that's feeling frustrated or hopeless, right? And exactly giving it some cookies and sticking it over there and being like, okay, I'm open to believing that I'm going to go to the south side of the beach and that's where my job is, and I'm not going to give up like Mr. KFC, right? So yeah, so homework, coach yourself, do the thought download, use the framework. Let's come back next week. Let's share what we've learned. Let's share how this week went coaching ourselves. I'd love it if you could coach yourself every day. Hold on, one other quick thing let me just quickly go back to share. I know we've got 1 more minute, 2 more minutes actually. That's your homework. Okay, here's a free copy of my book. So grab your phone, scan. We'll also share these slides with the team though, right, Allie?
Yeah, of course.
Great.
Absolutely.
You'll have access to this QR code. Perfect. And so you'll get a free copy of my book, Rock Your Brain, Rock Your Life. This is also my podcast, Rock Your Brain, Rock Your Life. I did want to share with you one of my clients. She had 4 years at Microsoft, and she left Microsoft and got a job in health tech. So, there's this episode all about her. If you're curious about one of your former colleagues, these are all stories of my clients and how they've used this framework to completely change their reality, get new jobs, stop feeling burnt out, all the things around their career. So feel free to, binge on any of these podcasts. This is important. I encourage you to listen to my Bridging Thoughts podcast. I'm open to believing I can find a new job. It's possible. It's all these ways of making yourself feel a little bit more open. That's it. Yes, we're right at time.